Hey guys, so this video is going to focus on how to solve a quadratic equation by factoring. So first off, when you're given a quadratic equation, and you know that it's a quadratic equation because it has the square term there, before you even get into how to solve it, what factoring method are you going to use, the first thing that you need to make sure is that your equation is in proper quadratic form. So proper quadratic form looks like this, right? Where you have your squared term followed by your x to the first power term followed by your constant, and it's all set equal to 0. So if you're given an example that's not in the proper form, the first thing you need to focus on is putting it in the proper form first. So for example, right, I have this example written up here on the board, 3t squared minus 19t is equal to 14. Notice that this is not in proper quadratic equation form. It is not set equal to 0. So the first thing that I have to do before doing anything else is to put this in proper form first. So that's a matter of scooching this 14 over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides first, giving me 3t squared minus 19t minus 14 is equal to 0. And now it's in proper form. I can proceed with now factoring. Now, when it comes to factoring, there are so many different factoring techniques out there, unfortunately. But regardless what factoring technique you use, the first thing that you should always look for is there a greatest common factor? So always go over your example, right, and make sure you don't have anything in common. So looking at our numbers, 3, 19, 14, nothing in common there. And I definitely don't have the same variable in each one, so we're good for this example. But every once in a while that is going to pop up, and that needs to be the first check that you do when it comes to factoring. So otherwise, I see that I have a trinomial here, right? My leading coefficient is a 3, so it's not a 1. So the technique that I'm going to use for this particular one is no-fuss factoring. So when it comes to no-fuss factoring, I prefer that method when it comes to factoring trinomials, just because regardless what kind of trinomial it is, no-fuss factoring it factors it all. So I don't have to worry about using maybe 3 or 4 different techniques over all trinomials. I can use no-fuss factoring for it all. So this is the way that no-fuss factoring works. So I'm going to take my factors here, right? We typically factor a trinomial into a binomial and a binomial. Alright, so I draw my parentheses here, and the first thing that we do is we look at the first term that we're given, 3t squared. And essentially we repeat that twice. Since I have 3t there, I'm going to write 3t and 3t. Then what we do is we take the first number times the last number. So this 3 times the 14. All right, so we're going to do 3 times 14, and we're going to multiply that out. So let's see, that gives us a 42 when we multiply that. And what we need to do is we need to find all the factors of 42. So what times what is 42? All right, so 1 times 42, 2 times 21, 3 times 14, 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, 6 times 7. So those are all our different factor combinations that are going to multiply to get 42. And what we're looking for is which combination is going to add or subtract to get our middle term. So here our middle term is 19. So taking a look at each one of these, which pair is going to add or subtract to get a 19? Well, definitely not this one here. 1 plus 42, 42 minus 1 is not going to work. 21 minus 2, though, is a 19. So, hey, this is my magic combination, the 2 and the 21. So I'm going to plug in 2. I'm going to plug in 21. Again, doesn't matter where you put the numbers. What's most important is what signs you put in front of them. So taking a look at our signs. So some things to remember when it comes to knowing what signs to use. Always look at your middle term first. Whatever sign your middle term has, the bigger number out of these two has to have it. So since 21 is definitely bigger than 2, I'm going to give 21 the same sign as my middle term. So that means it's going to be negative. All right, so whatever sign your middle term has, the bigger one of these numbers is going to have it. Otherwise, now I move to my last term over here in my trinomial. My last term is negative. And this negative here comes from last times last. So I know that this times this is going to give me this negative over here. All right, so when it comes to multiplying, we need to keep in mind what gives me a negative when it comes to multiplying. And our multiplying rules are same signs give you positive, different signs give you negative. And since we have a negative here, that tells me automatically they have to have different signs because different signs is negative. So if they have to have different signs, this one's a minus, that means this one has to be a plus. So we're almost done here, except for the fact in no fuss factoring, there is always something, one or both of these factors are going to need to be simplified. Okay, so what I mean by that is think about maybe reducing fractions, taking out a common factor from each one. That's exactly what we need to do here. So either one or both of these are going to need to be simplified. That's the final step in no fuss factoring. So looking at the first one, a 3 and a 2, well, 3 and 2 don't have anything in common. But if I look at my second pair over here, the 3 and 21 definitely have something in common. 3 and 21 each have a 3 in common, so I'm going to divide that out. And when I do so, 3 divided by 3 cancels, so we're going to drop down the t, minus 21 divided by 3 is 7. I'm going to drop down my other factor over here, and remember that this was an equation. This is all set equal to 0. So this is the factoring part. We took our quadratic equation, right, we put it in proper form in order for us to factor it. But the second half of this problem is now that we have it factored, we need to use the zero factor property and set each one of these equals to 0. Because keep in mind what this is actually telling us. This is telling us that 3t plus 2 times t minus 7 is 0. So this times this is 0. Now think about that. How do you get 0 when you multiply? The only way to get 0 is if one of these is 0. I mean, that's the only way that this is going to be true, that this is going to work out. So in order to figure that out, we're going to set them each equal to 0, and we're going to solve them both. So what that's going to look like is this. We're going to take 3t plus 2, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Then we're going to take t minus 7 and also set that equal to 0. We're going to solve both of these equations, and what I get as my answer to both of these equations, that's going to be my answer to the whole problem. Okay, that's going to be our answer to solving this quadratic equation. So let's get to solving. So the one on the left over here, right, so for solving for t, we need to subtract the 2 on both sides. Remember, we do the opposite, and we do it to both sides. So minus 2, we're going to get 3t is equal to a negative 2. And then we're going to divide out the coefficient on both sides to give it that t is equal to a negative 2/3. Solving the other one here, this t minus 7 equals 0. So we're going to do the opposite and add 7 to both sides. And when we do so, we get t is equal to 7. So we got a negative 2/3 and a 7 as our two solutions for this quadratic equation.